The sky was blue to blue, perhaps. The birds sang cheerfully, blissfully, unaware they'd soon fall silent. Maria sat at the edge of a river, toes dipping gently into cool water, watching her little brother, Eli, chase bright yellow butterflies. Nearby, the village was small, humble, and full of life, a paradise hidden away from the troubles of the universe. But today, paradise would end. Maria smiled, waving at Eli as he laughed, innocent and carefree. Their mother, Rosa, hung clothes on a line, humming softly to herself. Everything felt perfect, which was precisely when everything changed. Suddenly, the sky darkened quickly, impossibly, as if the sun had been stolen from the heavens. The air filled with an unsettling hum that resonated deep within Maria's bones. Did someone order an eclipse and forget to tell us? Maria joked nervously, but her laughter faded fast. Eli stopped chasing butterflies, his eyes wide, staring upwards in horror. Maria followed his gaze. A massive ship, dark as midnight, descended through swirling clouds, blotting out the sun. It hovered ominously, as if pausing to savor the village's terror. Then came the first flash, brilliant, blinding. A shockwave knocked Maria flat, stealing her breath as fire consumed her vision. Deafening explosions rocked the village, each one a heartbeat stolen from Maria's chest. She scrambled to her feet, screaming Eli's name, but heard nothing. The world had gone terribly silent, pierced only by a dreadful ringing in her ears. She stumbled forward into choking smoke, eyes burning, heart racing. Shadows of neighbors ran past her in panic, ghostly figures lost in confusion. Fires raged uncontrollably, homes reduced to ash. Maria felt panic claw at her throat, but desperation pushed her onward, searching frantically for her family. Eli, Mama, where are you? Her voice broke, tears streaking through soot-covered cheeks. Then, a devastating sight froze her in place. Her small home was an inferno, flames leaping into the darkened sky. Eli's little toy, his favorite wooden horse, lay charred in the dirt, abandoned and forgotten. Maria dropped to her knees, the world spinning around her. Her entire life had just shattered into 1,000 painful shards. She looked up again, fists clenched in helpless fury. Alien craft soared above, cold and indifferent, moving away casually as if they'd just finished an everyday chore. Why? She shouted to the heavens, her voice raw. Why, us? Only the silent stars answered. Maria's grief turned cold, her despair hardened into something fierce and unbreakable. Kneeling in the ash of her village, she made a hopeful wish, but a vow carved in iron. You destroyed my world. Now, I'll burn yours. And she meant every single word. Maria stood in the middle of the ruins, barefoot on the cracked earth, her clothes torn and her skin coated in dust and dried blood. The village that once danced with laughter and light now whispered only with smoke. Wind moved through the wreckage, like a ghost, lifting small clouds of ash into the air. Her eyes scanned what was left: collapsed rooftops, blackened stones, broken glass reflecting the sky like pieces of a shattered mirror. It was all gone. Not long ago, this was home. The bakery where old Mr. Rowland gave her sweet bread after school. The market where neighbors shouted friendly insults over the price of tomatoes. The little house with the blue door at the end of the street. Her house, her family's house. Now, there was no blue, no door, no street. Only fire-scorched memories and the smell of things that should never burn. Her knees shook as she dropped to the ground and began digging with bare hands. The dirt was hot. The wood splintered. Blood welled from beneath her fingernails, but she didn't stop. Somewhere beneath all this, there had to be something, a sign, a miracle, a heartbeat. And then she found it: Eli's scarf, torn, covered in soot, but unmistakable. The yellow and green stripes she had knitted for him last winter were still visible. Beneath the grime, she held it to her chest, pressing it close as if it could bring him back. Eli, her little brother, barely 9 years old, always running, always laughing, always asking the kind of questions that made adults pause and think. He had been her light in a world growing darker every year. And now, that light had gone out. She didn't cry. Not anymore. The tears had dried. Up hours ago, maybe days ago. Time had lost meaning the moment the sky cracked open and the alien ships descended like angry gods. They didn't speak, they didn't explain, they simply attacked. Flames had fallen from the sky, lighting up the village in seconds. Screams echoed off the stone. Mothers ran. Fathers fought back with rifles meant for wolves and bandit warships. It hadn't been a battle. It had been a warning, a punishment, or maybe just sport. Why her village? Why now? Was it a mistake, or had they been chosen? The only answer Maria found was silence. She clutched the scarf and looked around. Nothing moved, no survivors called out. Even the birds were gone. Somewhere deep inside, her heart fractured again. But within that crack, something stirred. Not grief, not fear. Something colder, stronger, rage. She stood, weak legs trembling beneath her. Her fingers curled around the scarf like a weapon. Her lips pressed into a line so tight it hurt. And though her voice was barely more than a whisper, the words she spoke cut through the air like steel. They think they won. She looked to the sky, the last wisps of smoke trailing upward. Like her thoughts being carried to the stars. They think this was the end. Her body ached, but she kept walking through the wreckage. Over the broken toys, past the cracked photograph of her parents' wedding. She walked until she reached the far edge of the village, where the earth dipped into a wide crater. One of the bombs had landed there. The soil was scorched, the ground still warm, and standing there, on the edge of that crater, Maria made a promise, not to God, not to fate, not even to the dead. She made it to herself. I will not forget, she whispered. I will not run. I will make them remember this place. I will make them feel this pain. I will burn their world the way they burned mine. Her voice broke, but her eyes did not. Behind her, the last embers of the village flickered like stars against the night. In front of her, only darkness. But in her mind, a new fire had started. Not one born from ships or bombs or alien wrath. This fire burned for vengeance, and Maria, Maria was just getting started. Maria walked alone through the dead silence of what used to be a living world. Her boots, worn thin and patched with cloth, crunched over scorched earth and crumbling roads. What was once a beautiful planet now felt hollow, its forests stripped bare, its rivers poisoned, and its cities left behind like skeletons of a forgotten age. The aliens had left, but their ghosts remained. Ash fell like grey snow from a distant fire, coating trees that no longer grew leaves. Power lines hung like nooses across highways cracked by heat. Billboards faded under layers of dust. Entire towns sat untouched since the attack, their houses still filled with dishes on tables, toys on floors, and clothes hanging in closets like the people inside had simply vanished. Sometimes, she found survivors, but their eyes were different now, wide, empty. They didn't ask for help, they didn't offer comfort, they just sat in silence, clutching pictures of loved ones, or whispering to walls. Some tried to rebuild, hammering wood with trembling hands. Others simply stared into the sky, waiting for another ship to finish what the first wave had started. Maria didn't stop to rest. She didn't want to sleep. She didn't want to dream. Days passed. Nights grew colder. Hunger clawed at her belly. But anger kept her moving. Then she found it. Hidden beneath the remains of a collapsed government facility. Buried deep under layers of steel and concrete was an old military bunker. The doors were bent, half melted. But Maria forced her way in, coughing through the smoke of burnt electronics and decay. Inside was chaos. Broken screens flickered. Wires snaked across the floor like roots of some forgotten machine. The power was dying. The air smelled of rust and old blood. And then she saw it in the corner. Tangled in cables and covered in dust was a drone, not human, alien, its body was sleek but damaged, scorched panels, one eye flickering with weak light. Its limbs twitched, not with threat, but pain. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't moving, it was surviving. Maria froze. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, it blinked, just once. Her breath caught in her throat. Was it a trick? A trap? Or was this thing just like her, left behind, broken, angry? She took a cautious step forward. The drone didn't react. Another blink. She reached for the metal rod she kept in her backpack, just in case. But something inside her paused. She crouched slowly beside the machine and studied it. Its markings were like those on the ships that destroyed her village. The same species, the same monsters, but this one was different. "You one of the ones who did it?" she asked softly. The drone didn't speak, but its eye dimmed, almost like shame. Maria tilted her head. "You alone now too, huh?" A soft hum answered her. Something inside hers, something wild and desperate, made her speak again. This time, not with hate, but with purpose. "You? Gonna help me destroy your people?" It blinked, paused, then nodded. Maria let out a long breath, unsure whether to laugh or scream. Was she about to partner with the enemy, or had she just found the only thing on this planet as lost as she was? Either way, her path had changed. This wasn't just about pain anymore. It was about purpose. And the war wasn't over. It had only just begun. Maria never imagined she would be learning alien science in a bunker made of broken dreams. But grief has a strange way of turning pain into focus. The drone, now named Ash, became her silent mentor. Its damaged frame barely functioned, yet its memory core was intact. Inside it were files that didn't belong on Earth. Blueprints for energy weapons, maps of distant star systems, alien languages, and things that would have taken a human years to understand. But Maria didn't have years, she had rage. And rage is a fast teacher. She spent her mornings studying star maps, tracing the glowing trails that connected Earth to the alien homeworld. Her afternoons were filled with trial and error rewiring tech, dismantling drones, adapting alien metal to fit her human body, and her nights. Her nights were the hardest. That's when the silence crept in, when the shadows whispered names she could no longer say aloud. Eli, Mama, her father. She would sit with her back against the cold wall, eyes bloodshot, hands stained with oil and burns, and whisper into the dark. Would Eli even recognize me? Now, but there was no answer, just the humming of machines, the clicking of tools, the crackling energy of a plan slowly taking shape. Ash projected holograms in the air, guiding her through complex designs. Plasma rifles, neural enhanced, artificial muscle fibers. Maria didn't fully grasp the science, but she understood survival. She crafted armor from alien alloys that responded to her body temperature. She grafted circuits into gloves to give her the strength of 10 men. She made a combat suit that could bend light, conceal movement, and absorb heat. Her fingers, once delicate, were now calloused and covered in scars. Hands that once braided Eli's hair now built missiles. Hands that once planted flowers now pulled triggers, and still, she wasn't done. With Ash's help, she modified her own body. Not in big, dramatic ways, no glowing eyes or metal limbs, but subtle upgrades. A neural implant that allowed her to read alien code like a second language. A pulse regulator that kept her calm under fire. Her brain worked faster now. Her reactions were sharper. Her body was no longer just human. It was something more. She had become the weapon Earth never had. The one it needed too late. In a cracked mirror near the back of the bunker, Maria sometimes caught her reflection. Pale skin, sunken eyes, streaks of grease across her cheek like war paint. She didn't look like the girl who used to chase butterflies. With her brother, she looked like a ghost forged in metal and memory. One evening, as the sun bled through a broken skylight above, she stood, staring at that reflection, armor glowing faintly along her spine, and whispered again, "What would Eli think of me now?" And in the silence, she imagined his voice. He'd say, "You look like a superhero," she thought with a bitter smile. But he'd ask if you were happy. She didn't have an answer, but she had a mission. She turned away from the mirror, pulled the armor's chestplate into place, and powered up the core weapon mounted on her back. A soft hum filled the room. Ash pulsed green. The ship they were building, buried deep under rubble, was almost ready. Maria walked to the control panel and activated the system. Every part of her was now a soldier. Every breath a countdown. Every memory a flame. She wasn't here to rebuild the world. She was here to make the aliens remember what it felt like to lose everything, and she wouldn't stop. Not until the stars themselves cried out her name. Maria sat in the pilot's chair, staring into a sky full of fire and silence. Around her, the alien ship purred softly, its controls glowing with cold blue light. It didn't feel like a cockpit, it felt like a throne carved from shadow and vengeance. Ash hovered nearby, its single eye glowing steadily, linked into the ship's core. Everything was ready. Outside, the Earth slept, unaware that one of its daughters was about to cross into legend. She launched the ship into orbit under the cover of night. No goodbyes, no announcements, just the quiet roar of the engines as they lifted her from the world that had raised her and ruined her. Through the clouds, through the upper atmosphere, past the stars she used to wish on as a child. The planet shrank behind her, glowing softly in the darkness. Her fingers moved across the controls with confidence. She wasn't guessing anymore. The language made sense now. The tech responded to her thoughts, almost like it knew what she wanted before she did. Maria and the ship were one. And far ahead, like a diamond hanging in the void, was her target. The alien homeworld. It looked peaceful from this distance, beautiful even. Shades of violet, green, and deep ocean blue shimmered beneath its cloud layers. Floating cities sparkled like jewels. To anyone else, it would look like a dream, but Maria knew the truth. Behind that beauty lived monsters, the same ones who burned her family. The same ones who sent ships to erase her village without warning, without mercy. They looked like gods, spoke in code, and killed without regret. She narrowed her eyes and clenched her jaw. Let's make some noise. Ash beeped once, a confirmation. The course was locked in. The ship moved forward at light speed velocity, guided by coordinates Ash had stolen before the network collapsed. The route was dangerous, full of gravity wells, ancient minefields, and forgotten patrols. But Maria didn't care. She wasn't going there to survive, she was going there to make them remember. As the ship crossed the Kuiper line, the invisible border where Earth's reach ends and deep space begins, a ping echoed through the cockpit. The ship's alert system flared. Maria glanced at the console. A signal had been picked up. Alien ships had noticed her presence. They were coming. Good. She opened the weapons bay and looked at the device sitting inside. A core bomb. It was a fusion of human rage and alien science. A weapon so powerful, even Ash warned her it could rupture atmosphere if detonated wrong. It pulsed with red light. Like a living heart, one that beat only for revenge. She thought of Eli's scarf. Still tucked into her armor, she thought of her mother's hands. Cooking dinner in that little house with the blue door, she thought of everything she'd lost. And then, she reached for the controls. The targeting system locked onto the alien capital. A massive city floating above oceans, filled with temples of glass and towers of light. Maria didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. She didn't cry. She simply set the course straight for their throne, straight for their pride, straight for the center of their world. She leaned back in the chair, the stars stretching around her, and whispered, "This is for Earth." Behind her, the galaxy was quiet. Ahead of her, fire waited. Maria pierced the alien atmosphere like a blade of fury falling from the stars. Her ship cut through thick clouds that glowed violet and gold, its heat shield blazing as she descended with deadly purpose. She wasn't hiding. She wanted them to see her, to feel the fear she once felt, to know just for a moment what it's like to watch everything you love disappear in fire. Below her, the alien capital stretched across an endless ocean, a glittering jewel of light and technology. Towers made of crystal and steel rose into the sky. Bridges hung like silver threads between floating islands. The air shimmered with energy and beauty. It would have taken her breath away if she hadn't already come to steal theirs. Sirens erupted through the city. Sharp and mechanical. Defense towers activated, tracking her with deadly precision. Anti-air cannons lit up the sky, sending waves of plasma up through the clouds. Explosions blossomed around her ship, but she didn't swerve. She just pressed forward, faster, faster, hotter, angrier. Her heart thumped in sync with the ship's engines. Ash, connected to the targeting system, fed her live readings. Shields down to 48%, it warned. Maria smirked. That's still 47% more than I need. She aimed directly for the central palisade, massive spire surrounded by gardens of light and statues of their greatest warriors. Somewhere in that tower, the leaders of this planet sat in silence, watching her descend. Perhaps they thought she'd flinch. Perhaps they believed she wouldn't follow through. They didn't know her at all. She opened the launch chamber. The core bomb hovered silently above the drop bay, perfectly still, perfectly deadly. It pulsed with a soft red glow, like a heartbeat ready to burst. This wasn't just a weapon. This was everything: her rage, her pain, her promise to the dead. Target locked, Ash, confirmed. Maria whispered into the silence. You bombed my village. I'll erase your name from history. And with one touch, she released the bomb. It dropped slowly at first, humming like a lullaby, twisted by sorrow. The hum deepened into a low growl, and then into a scream. A sound that didn't just shake the buildings, it shook the air, the sky, the bones of every creature below. The core reached its critical depth, and ignited. A white light exploded outward, brighter than the sun, swallowing the skyline in one terrifying breath. Buildings turned to dust. Streets cracked apart. Entire floating towers crumbled into the ocean like falling stars. Shockwaves blasted through the atmosphere, sending winds so strong they tore trees from their roots and shattered windows across the hemisphere. From high above, Maria watched it unfold. Her ship trembled from the force of the blast. Flames rose in waves, painting the sky with red and orange streaks. For a moment, everything was fire. And for the first time in months, Maria smiled. Not because she enjoyed the destruction, not because she believed this fixed the past, but because, in that single powerful moment, they felt it, the fear, the helplessness, the silence that comes after loss. They felt what it meant to lose everything, and she had become the instrument of that lesson. But just as quickly as her smile appeared, her ship's console screamed in alarm. 3 enemy ships broke through the smoke, coming fast. Her shields were nearly gone. She had no more bombs. No more plans. Maria looked out at the burning planet and whispered to herself, if this is where it ends, at least they'll remember my name. Then she tightened her grip on the controls and prepared to face whatever came next. The shockwave hit Maria's ship like a fist from the heavens. Metal groaned. Lights exploded in a shower of sparks. Alarms screamed through the cockpit. She barely had time to brace herself before she was slammed against the controls. The wind knocked from her lungs. Outside, the alien sky was on fire. The capital city, once shining and tall, now crumbled into the ocean below, swallowed by smoke and fury. She had done it. She had delivered her message. But at what cost? The ship spun, out of control. One of the stabilizers had been torn away in the blast. Flames licked the hull. Her fingers fumbled with the console, trying to level it out, but the engines were dying. Fast. Her vision blurred. Blood trickled from her forehead, warm and sticky. Every bone in her body ached. Her muscles screamed for rest. But rest meant death. She gritted her teeth, looked out at the burning world she had set ablaze, and whispered, not yet. Then, through the smoke, she saw them, 3 enemy ships. Sleek, silent, rising through the ash. They hadn't been destroyed in the explosion. Maybe they were part of a backup fleet. Maybe they were just late to the battle. Either way, they were coming straight for her, and she had nothing left to fight with. Her hands searched the dashboard frantically. No missiles, no shields, no emergency boosters. She reached for her last pulse grenade gun. Her chest tightened. Was this it? After all the suffering, after all the pain, after the promise, the training, the war, the bomb, was this how her story ended? Shot down in silence by the same kind of monsters who took her brother. She closed her eyes. Not from fear, but because she was ready. Then a voice, not hers, not theirs. Ash to Maria. Emergency transfer protocol engaged. Brace for displacement. Her eyes flew open. Ash's voice came from the main speaker, calm and steady. What? Ash, what are you? She started, but the light beneath her seat exploded with energy. Her body felt weightless. The floor vanished beneath her. The world twisted and bent like glass under pressure. A beam of light surrounded her body. The sound of the ship disappeared. The fire, the fear, the war, gone. Gone for a moment. She was nowhere, not in space, not on a planet, just in between. Then darkness. Cold, silence. Cold. Silence, her eyes fluttered open. She was lying on metal, surrounded by stars. The room was unfamiliar, clean, quiet, high-tech. Monitors blinked softly on the walls. It looked like another ship, but not hers. Ash's voice returned. You're alive. That's all that matters. Maria sat up slowly, breathing hard. Where are we? A place the aliens won't find, Ash replied. Not yet. She looked. Out the window beside her, the alien world burned in the distance, a small blue-green sphere dimmed by fire. She had done it. She had survived, but deep inside, she knew. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. She hadn't just destroyed a city. She had awakened something much bigger. And now, the galaxy was watching. Maria's war might be over, but her journey isn't. She proved that one person, broken, lost, and underestimated can shake entire worlds. But there's another kind of power, one that doesn't destroy planets, but builds legacies. Want to know? How tiny actions, repeated over time, can change your life just as dramatically. Then don't miss our next story, the power of compounding what the aliens never understood.